Mary stood on the balcony of the room she had slept in for the past 3 years. She didn't want to turn on the lights. The darkness of the night would hide the tears rolling down her cheeks. This is over. I can't go on like this. I can't take it anymore, she thought as she stared straight ahead. Suddenly, the light from a car snapped her out of her thoughts. Her beloved husband was coming home, and she knew exactly what would happen. Her husband, Maximus Palmer, was the president of the Palmer Group, one of the most important conglomerates in Valeria. Earlier that morning, Maximus had forgotten a folder full of documents. Knowing him, he would probably need them and would be in trouble if he didn't. She had tried calling him several times to inform him about the documents. Still, when he didn't answer, she left the mansion with the mission to deliver them herself. She only informed Emma Rosewood, her housekeeper. Emma, Maximus isn't answering. Are you sure he had these documents in his hand this morning? She asked, her voice full of worry. Yes, ma'am. He was putting everything in his briefcase in the living room, but then he got a call, so I think he forgot to pack them. I assume he's going to need them. Okay. I'm leaving right now. Maybe I'll get there in time, Mary said. Drive safely, ma'am. Emma called out as she watched Mary rush out. After speeding through the streets in her car, she finally arrived at Palmer Group's office. She had never set foot there in her 3 years of marriage, but this time, it was urgent. She entered the lobby and saw no one. She knew there was an elevator that went straight to the president's office. Without knowing for sure, but as if luck were on her side, she chose that one. After several floors, the bell dinged, announcing her arrival. Mary stepped out of the elevator, and luckily for her, the hallway was empty, and Maximus's secretary's desk was unoccupied too. Where could Matthew be? Where is everyone? She wondered out loud, though no one answered, of course. She walked towards the large, elegantly carved wooden door. She entered without knocking, and what she saw left her speechless. Maximus had his pants down, thrusting in a way he never had with her. She could see the blonde woman with him. It was none other than Alexia Levitt, his only female assistant. Mary dropped the folder, and Maximus, hearing the noise, turned around, stunned. He adjusted his shirt to hide his reaction, hastily pulling up his pants, while Alexia grabbed her blouse to cover her completely bared and sweaty body. Mary's reaction was hardly surprising. So, it's her you've been cheating on me with all this time? She started cursing at him. You shameless man. I hate you. And you, I'm going to end you. Mary screamed as she lunged at Alexia. She was almost upon the bared woman when a sharp pain hit her in the stomach. Maximus had just punched her, knocking her to her knees. Lately, these hysterical outbursts had become more common, and seeing her approach his lover with a murderous look, he had no choice but to hit her. Taking advantage of Mary being on the floor, Maximus called Matthew on his cell phone. Matthew, I need you to take Mary back to the mansion and keep her there. It didn't take Matthew long to arrive. Mary was still on the floor, clutching her stomach. Matthew helped her up, trying not to look at Alexia, who was only half covered with a poorly buttoned blouse. He felt sorry for Mary. Catching her husband like that couldn't have been one of the most pleasant experiences. Mrs. Palmer, let's go home. You need to calm down, Matthew said, putting special emphasis on Palmer, knowing this might earn him a reprimand later. But in that moment, he put himself in her shoes. Matthew? Yes, sir. Stay at the mansion and make sure she stays there, Maximus ordered, his voice cold and authoritative. Where could the poor woman go? Matthew thought. She was alone in a foreign country, with a husband who wouldn't let her make friends with just anyone. Ma'am, let's go. I'll take you home. No, I don't want to go home. Please don't make things difficult, ma'am. You know how the boss gets when he loses his patience. Matthew, I don't want to go home. Please, I don't want to go home. I want to go back to my country. I want my life back. Hearing that last sentence, Matthew felt uncomfortable. He remembered the circumstances that had brought Mary to Valencia. The reasons she left her country were serious, and going back wouldn't be easy. It would put her and her family at risk. I have no choice, ma'am. I have to take you back to the mansion. Yes, Matthew, I know. I was just saying it, imagining I could be free and go back to my old life. You know you can't, ma'am. It's too dangerous for your grandfather. That's the only reason I'm still putting up with all this, and you know it. If it weren't for my grandfather, I would have left already, married or not. Matthew arrived at the Palmer mansion. He opened the passenger door and saw the shattered fragments of an abused, humiliated, and forgotten woman get out. He felt his heart clench, but there was nothing he could do. In matters like this, it was best not to get involved. Maximus was strict and didn't allow anyone to comment on his marriage. The only one who could say anything was Mrs. Catherine Palmer, Maximus's grandmother, but she wasn't around right now. After staring at the moon and her surroundings for a long time, trying to find the strength for what lay ahead, Mary finally entered without turning on the light. She went into the bathroom and washed her face to wipe away the traces of tears she had shed. Her hands were trembling. She knew the storm that was coming,